Let's see. Okay, awesome. So we are live. So welcome to another amazing author's view. And I am here with Makani Speier-Brito. And we are going to talk about, well, about Makani, duh. But we are also going to be talking about her short story that is in the RIZE Short Story Anthology, Volume 1. But before we launch into that, I want to give you a little bit of background about Makani. So, she is a bilingual and biracial poet. Her book, The Woods Hold Us, is a collection of poems about the intricacies of a chosen family. Um, she is a second year MFA candidate in the creative writing program at the University of Texas, El Paso. She received her BA in literature with a concentration in creative writing from the University of California, Santa Cruz. Her work has appeared in several publications, including Plural Personal, All the Distance, Z Publishing, Best Emerging Poets of California, Cirque Journal, Matchbox Magazine, Red Wheelbarrow, uh, I'm going to say this wrong, Shinkapen, and Forever Spoken. She loves the beach, chai. Oh my gosh, love chai.
Had to include
Uh,
them.
Hugs and the feeling after it rains. Oh, 100% on all of these.
Thank you.
So, I mean, we are so happy to publish your short story. And first, I want to ask you, what inspired you to write that story?
First of all, thank you so much for the introduction. I'm really happy to be here, and I am in the last leg of my MFA program, so this is a great interview to have. I feel really excited to finish my program and talk about this story. So basically, I wrote this story when I was living in San Jose. So I had just graduated from college, and I really didn't know what I was doing with like anything in my life. I was just kind of floating around, and I didn't know what direction I wanted to go in my career. I knew that I loved to write, so I've just been writing for years and, sending it out to publications. Usually unpaid, but still happy to have anything out there in the world. So I moved in with my boyfriend's family, and he was from India. He's my ex-boyfriend now. We're still on great
Okay.
terms. But
Okay.
so we met in Santa Cruz, and I just became fascinated by his world. I didn't know anything about India. I didn't know anything about their culture, and I really just fell in love with his family, and I was so embraced by his family. And this story came out of knowing his mom, actually. So I
Oh,
changed all the
cool.
names. Yeah. I changed all the names in the story to, protect their privacy. And I wrote it for her because we would have these long conversations at their home. I was working part-time, again, not really knowing what I was doing with my life, and just had a lot of free time to write and hang out. And so we would have these conversations, and she was a stay-at-home wife, stay-at-home mom. Her two children were grown up. And she started telling me about her life, and she would always comment, how appreciative she was of how I would always listen to her and give her the time of day and really just sit down and have a great conversation with her. And it really like tugged on my heartstrings, because this was a woman who basically had no power her entire life. And she grew up in a village in this area in India called Agra. And basically, her way out of poverty was by marriage. And which, you hear about all the time, some in like impoverished situations, women's escape to freedom and security is through marriage. And so I really wanted to write a story that honored her and kind of rewrite her story in a way that gave her a sense of freedom and justice that I thought she really deserved. she shared with me a lot of vulnerable things about, the loneliness in her marriage, how, she really had this strong desire to feel heard and loved, but really didn't have that in her life at all.
Mm.
Um, and it just really broke my heart, and, here she is in this country where we are given so much freedom and so much opportunity. And yet she is not given that in her own life. And I had to respect, her culture. I had to respect her decisions. Of course, like for me, I come from an entirely different culture. I've always been encouraged to speak up. I've always been encouraged to go after what I want. And I never realized that privilege until I met her. And so I wanted to write this story to honor her, like I said, but also I just want it to be a call for other women to maybe reflect on their own life and see where they can, push forward a little more to get that freedom, to get that power and independence that they so desperately want, if that makes sense at all.
Totally. It totally
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah. And, I didn't come from a lot of opportunities. My parents were divorced. My dad is an immigrant from Chile. Both my parents worked terrible jobs. My mom worked as like a waitress. My dad was a busboy. And I was able to get to this position through education, through scholarships. And I'm always am so grateful for those opportunities that we have here in this country. And as someone who comes from two cultures and then encountering a third culture, having that lens and that perspective to really see, like, compare the two cultures, compare like how much we take for granted and also how much we should, go after what we really want because we are given that freedom. And I've always been a huge advocate for women, and I've always really, I think my life purpose, honestly, as I get older, is to help young women. And I really want that to be reflected in my writing. I want it to be like a call in a way, so that, I don't want any women to feel like they're stuck. For me, I just really want women to feel the same level of freedom that everyone else feels. And so
that's awesome. That's amazing. Did you ever have an opportunity to visit India by chance?
No, my ex and I, we were planning to go there for a wedding at one point. And I don't know. Something happened. I think I changed jobs. I finally realized that I probably needed to work full time. So I got a job like as a teacher at a small school. And during that time period, we halted our plans to India. And I remember my mom was really against it. She's like, "You don't know what's happening over there." I was like, "Okay, Mom, like, I'll be fine. It's a wedding. It's all good."
So you mentioned that you come from a biracial background. So out of curiosity, what contrast did you see in the Cuban culture to, I'm assuming your mother's Caucasian?
Yes. So
Like, did you?
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, did you see contrast there as well as with the Indian culture?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So my dad is from Santiago, Chile, and he escaped the dictatorship, Pinochet's dictatorship. My mom was raised in Northern California in a very like middle class, regular upbringing, and she joined the Peace Corps, and she was stationed in Paraguay, and that's where she met my dad, who was selling flutes at the market.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. He was living in this kind of like a group home for young men. And one of the rules to live there was that you had to go out and find work. You couldn't be like slacking off. So he would sell these flutes. And my dad is very musical and very talented. He didn't get any opportunity to really showcase that, but he's brilliant, and he always pushed us to go after opportunities in whatever form. So that's how my parents met. My mom stuck out like a sore thumb. She was walking through the village, and she was just, on her way in the middle of this foreign country, and they caught eyes, and somehow they had like a mutual friend. And they met at like a 4th of July party in Paraguay. And
oh, wow.
Yeah. And that's how they met. And here we are. They moved to Hawaii. And they raised my sister and I, and they were definitely poor. It was, we didn't really think about it a lot, but looking back, we're like, oh yeah, we were really poor. But, their relationship didn't work out. They divorced later on, but they're still great friends. And but going back to your question, my dad's culture is very much family oriented, just like Indian's culture. Both India and Chile really value the family unit. And so when I met my ex-boyfriend's family, it was so comforting to me because I felt like I just understood it so much in a way I couldn't really put into words. I understood like, wow, everyone cares for each other. Everyone is looking out for one another. You're not ever left on your own, no matter what the distance is. Even the cousins in India are taken care of. Everyone is well connected. And I just thought that was so beautiful, because it is different in American culture. As soon as we're 18, we're kind of kicked off, we're which can be great for a lot of people, but it is a bit of a struggle, and it's kind of a little bit of a way to gain strength, but you do kind of lose that family connection in a way. But in those cultures, you don't lose it. You basically, your whole purpose is to bring security to your family, is to make sure everyone is taken care of. No matter what job you have, no matter what position, you always remember your family. So.
Very cool. So I know you're primarily a poet. Do you see specific themes in your poetry, and do you have any, like, what's your, I love to ask this question to people, it drives them mad, but like, what do you want to be when you grow up? Where do you see yourself?
Oh my goodness. I have big dreams. I know that sounds kind of cliche, but I really do. I would love to run a nonprofit organization one day, or be a part of an organization that supports writing, supports women empowerment. If something like that exists, call me, I'm here. I would love to. I would love to have that be my career. I just love like helping people in general, and especially young women. And I considered like a career path of being like a counselor at one point. But I want to do something that's really involved in communities, and just helps people get the resources they need to have whatever life they desire, whatever freedoms they want. And helping them get out of any like toxic situation that doesn't serve them. So I don't know if that job exists yet, but I don't even have a word for it or title, but I just kind of pick jobs that really call to me in the moment. And like, for example, I was working as a special education teacher, and then I was working to help autistic children for a while, and then I did now I'm in this administrative role, working for this behavioral health company. So we'll see where it goes. I'm at the moment, I'm just finishing my master's and still writing, and just trying to do what I love.
Fantastic. Well, is there anything, before we close, is there anything that you want to leave folks with?
Yes, I would love to leave folks with a quote.
Mm,
So this is a quote from a magazine that I read a couple
mm,
years ago, and
mm,
I thought it was amazing. Um, and I would love to read it to you now. This is from the Dame magazine, and it says, "There is a pull, a fiercely ingrained pull, to mute a woman's voice until it coos, to press it down until it is as small and sweet as a pastel after dinner mint, to control
mm,
it, to silence it. And still she speaks. She tries to be heard. But very often, too often, her voice is ignored, or belittled, mocked, critiqued, or shouted down as they demonstrate the tenacity and poise it takes to power through perpetual attempts to shut them up and shut them down. They teach us we must be courageous, persistent, and constantly try to reclaim our time to those who are trying to take it from us. The most effective and insidious method of silencing women is through subtle means, where the woman feels shame about herself as a person rather than identifying it as linked to discrimination against her gender." So I'm just gonna leave that there.
wow, that
Yeah,
was incredible.
thank you.
And with that, I want to thank you, Makani. It has been an absolute pleasure. And folks, if you are watching this, and because this is actually recorded across Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and it is also available on TikTok. If you leave a comment or a question in the comments section, we always go back, we always check, and we will make sure that we get any questions for Makani to her. So, with that, thank you so much.